Good day to members of the media and the listening public. I am pleased to announce that the Ministry of Economy and Labor is releasing a national economic development strategy for Bermuda. The economic development strategy sets out a roadmap which provides a clear path to guide Bermuda to sustainable economic growth and development. The strategy seeks to build an economy that creates greater opportunities for the people of Bermuda, supports entrepreneurship and small business, supports our farmers and fishermen, and embraces new technology and opportunities for diversification. The strategy will enhance Bermuda's business ecosystem, increase its global visibility and competitiveness, and promote investment. It will also help address future economic challenges as a result of Bermuda's aging population. The strategy sets out 5 strategic priorities and includes initiatives to improve and expand the economy and increase the working population. The 5 strategic priorities will form the bedrock of Bermuda's economic development efforts. The strategic priority areas include local and international business expansion and retention, attracting businesses and promoting investment into Bermuda, entrepreneurship and small business development, continued execution of the economic recovery plan, and investing in people. The government's economic development priorities ensure Bermuda has the right ecosystem, which allows businesses to set up, grow, and thrive. Bermuda remains an exceptional destination in which to live, work, and play. Bermuda's entrepreneurial legacy continues, and our island small businesses are at the forefront of driving Bermuda to future success. Bermuda's workers within the local labor market have the necessary tools and skills required to remain competitive, and Bermuda utilizes immigration to encourage greater economic activity and a sustainable workforce. The government's economic development organizations, the business community, and the people of Bermuda must work together to ensure the successful execution of this strategy. We must work together to attract and retain business in Bermuda, boost foreign investment, increase the workforce, and build our local economy to its fullest potential. A synergized approach will ensure results are maximized. In formulating this strategy, the Ministry of Economy and Labor conducted a detailed review of current economic development initiatives, an in-depth analysis of Bermuda's industries and growth opportunities, and a review of other plans and strategies of relevance. The ministry considered feedback from stakeholders and community input through the government forms portal. And so produced in collaboration with the newly formed Bermuda Economic Development Advisory Board, the strategy will complement the work of organizations involved in economic development activities in Bermuda. Executing these strategic initiatives will allow our economy to be robust, sustainable, and continue its growth. The strategy priorities go beyond increasing GDP to maintaining high levels of employment rates, reducing unemployment, and expanding the range of well-paying jobs. Bermuda's Economic Development Advisory Board will provide the Ministry of Economy and Labor with ongoing strategic guidance on implementing the economic development strategy. The board will set key performance indicators and regularly monitor and evaluate the progress of strategic economic priorities. The tracking and reporting of metrics that assess the effectiveness of this plan and initiatives outlined in the strategy will be ongoing. Bermuda's jobs for the people of Bermuda. We want businesses to grow and prosper, and we want greater levels of investment in infrastructure and technology. Collectively, we must work together to embrace a future in Bermuda that benefits all. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now take questions from reporters. Jasmine Patterson, Bermuda Broadcasting.
Hi, good afternoon, Ministers. Thanks for unveiling the new strategy that you've announced today. Specifically, can you share a little bit more on what's being done specifically, for example, to retain international business beyond what's already being done now?
So the strategy outlines a robust framework. So each of the strategic priority areas then have strategic initiatives. Those strategic initiatives will have action plans, and those action plans will be the activity that the economic development organizations engage in to execute on our objectives. And so specifically, the strategy will lay out in very clear detail what are our strategic priority areas, what are the strategic initiatives underneath those priorities, and the actions that we will undertake.
How does it differ from the original economic development plan that was in place?
So we have now 5 strategic priorities. The economic recovery plan forms one of the 5 strategic priorities. The largest strategic priority would be local business expansion and retention, where we look at industries that drive growth, industries which are employment generating industries, and then we also look at where the greatest level of opportunity lies. There could be some crossover between the priorities that were mentioned in the economic recovery plan and the priorities in the economic development strategy, but what you will find is that this strategy is much more robust than the economic recovery plan. The economic recovery plan was designed as a response to the downturn in economic activity after the pandemic. The economic development strategy kind of charts a future path for the next 4 years.
Okay. So, for example, vertical farming, medical tourism, those ideas haven't been shelved?
No. So those ideas still form part of the economic recovery plan. But what you will find is when we start to talk about agriculture in general, what you're going to see is that we want to have an expanded view of how we can boost local production, and that vertical farming or using technology to increase local food production is only one component.
Okay. Some people I've spoken to feel that this government rolls out plan after plan after plan. What are you doing to ensure that these initiatives, do take place?
And so that was the point of development, the Economic Development Advisory Board. The Economic Development Advisory Board has already begun its work. We will ensure that we track and monitor the performance of this plan. The future success of Bermuda relies on us being proactive and deliberate about executing on our agenda. And so, no, we will not rest on our laurels, and we will not put out a plan that we don't have any intention to execute on.
Sure. So the government has outlined it needs about roughly 8,000 new workers to the island. Has the advisory board figured out a specific solution to that?
So the plan seeks to do one main thing, and that's increase economic activity across the board in multiple sectors in Bermuda. With increased economic activity, then we have increased jobs. With increased jobs, then we need an increased working population. And so kind of the strategy is the first step to getting us to having those increased jobs that we need for a sustainable future.
Okay. And just lastly, Opposition Minister Craig Cannonier raised some concerns about local bedding shops as examples of small businesses that are not doing so well. Some have closed within the last 12 months. Beyond what the BEDC provide, what can the government do to support small businesses that are struggling at the moment?
And so in order for us to grow the economy, we certainly need retention of current businesses. And that's why strategic priority number 1 is retention of local and international business. We certainly want to have better touch points with businesses to see what some of their challenges are and see how we can better support those businesses. But this government has demonstrated that when businesses need support, that we actually support business. You can see that with the way in which we move forward with some of the taxation and we reduce taxes for business in the last budget, or the relief that we provided after the pandemic through BEDC. We can't move forward with talking about initiatives and then say excluding what BDC does. BDC is a critical component of the work that is done to support our local business community.
Okay. And just lastly, minimum wage was implemented earlier this month. Have you received any preliminary feedback on how small businesses particularly may be coping with those new rates?
Generally, the feedback has been positive. People are encouraged by a minimum wage rate. Obviously, some people wanted to see more, and others, with their business models, they want to see less. But what I'll generally say is, what this has exposed is a lot of employment practices that are undesirable. And so some of the concerns that have already came in are a little bit alarming, but it indicated and signaled to the government that we are on the right track with $16.40 minimum wage.
Sure. And just out of interest, can I ask why you brought these particular ministers to share with you today?
Certainly, because this plan transcends the Ministry of Economy and Labor. And so all of the government's organs will have to pull together to ensure effective execution.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, Duncan Hall, World Gazette.
Thank you. Minister, good day, or ministers, good day. So if I'm hearing you correctly, this new economic development strategy folds in the economic recovery plan and then adds to it. Is that the idea?
It is much more robust. The economic recovery plan will form one of the 5 priority areas.
And why a new economic development strategy at this particular time? What is there about, you know, the state of our economy, the state of the global economy that makes you think this is the time to attack these various priorities?
Well, our economy right now is robust and resilient and continues to grow, and we want to capitalize off of that momentum. But more importantly, we released a paper which indicated that we were going to have challenges with our aging population if we do not increase our working population. In order for us to increase our working population, we need robust, broad-based economic activity. And the only way to achieve that is to have a deliberate strategy. And this economic development strategy is the strategy we will utilize to increase broad-based economic activity.
How would you assess the level of success so far of the economic recovery plan, which, as you say, is part of this bigger whole now? How has that been, do you think? How would you
We've
assess
had
that?
strategy meetings as it pertains with the project management office as it pertains to the economic recovery plan. 80% of the initiatives within the economic recovery plan are on track. The success that we're having with the economic recovery plan doesn't get highlighted. You know, what gets highlighted is the few initiatives that are a little bit challenging. And so we will continue to promote the work that we're doing in that vein, and we'll continue to drive action plans as it pertains to the economic recovery plan.
Is expand on the economic recovery plan into these other areas a sign, as you say, there are some challenges, or is it just an answer to a greater whole, if you know what I mean?
I think the government needs a synergized approach to the way in which we approach economic development, and this plan allows us to have that particular approach. It allows all of the economic development organizations to come together to work collectively on a strategy. It allows us to consolidate resources and place resources in priority areas.
How soon, you've talked sort of in broad terms, is there going to be a release of a plan that has some more details and some, you know, here's our action plan, here's our timeline, that sort of thing? Or is right now, are we just hearing the broad
The plan
review?
will be released to the public today.
The full plan?
Correct.
Okay. And so in that regard, you've announced the plan. What's next? Have you got committees set up to address these various areas, or how are you doing that?
Most definitely. As indicated in my press statement, the Economic Development Advisory Board will meet, and we will then prioritize the strategic initiatives within the plan, ensure that we have proper key performance indicators. Where there are policy changes, we will begin to make those policy changes. Where there's legislative changes required, we will ensure that they get on the legislative agenda for the next parliamentary period.
Okay. You mentioned that growing the economy is, a big, obviously, a huge part of attracting a larger working population. When you look at a larger working population, you're necessarily talking about immigration, right? Is there a number of jobs that's the target?
Yes, most certainly. We put out a paper in terms of the challenges that we see. We were facing with our working population. We used the old age dependency ratio to determine how much workers we will need. At that point in time, when that strategy was released last year, we needed over 8,000 workers.
Right.
And so all of the workers are not necessarily through immigration. We want to ensure that we have plans to get the Bermudian people who are ably qualified back into employment opportunities, those that are locked out of the job market right now, and then where there are gaps in skills between what is demanded by industry and what is supplied by our local economy, we will seek to offset those gaps with expatriate labor.
Can you add one more?
One more, yeah. So politically, whichever, side of the divide people are on, bringing more workers to Bermuda is kind of one of those touchy subjects, right? How do you tell your own court that more expatriate workers are required when there seems to be some pushback on that, or has been over time?
I think Bermudians are clear that there has always been a need for expatriate labor. We've been clear that there's always been more jobs than able-bodied Bermudians to fill those jobs within the economy. And as our economy expands, the expectation will be that we will have to have increased expatriate labor. We did put out a document in terms of the challenges that we will have with our aging population, and that highlighted some of the critical areas that, if not addressed, will cause problems for Bermuda. And so we're being proactive rather than reactive.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, members of the media. The report will be available on gov.bm and specifically the Ministry of Economy and Labor's webpage. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, ministers. That concludes our press conference.